Welcome back to the show. We got a great one lined up. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow us on X, YouTube, and digperspectives.com for exclusive content. You can also get your free account opened on Caleb and Brown, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, where you get the best human customer service that you can find in the crypto asset space. Now, you guys know I'm on multiple platforms, and this is my newest one, and I'm absolutely loving it, and you will too. The ability to speak to a prime broker, set your market orders correctly. If you're concerned about a technical issue with your account, you can contact them and you will get a hold of them and you will talk to a human being. It's absolutely remarkable and you deserve the experience too at XRPwealth589.com. XRPwealth589.com. Open your free account today and start getting that kind of service that you deserve. No doubt, $3.4 trillion market cap for crypto. The market's off 3.7. Bitcoin, 105,000 plus. Ethereum, 2,500 plus. XRP's 222. Now we're off 1.8 in the 24, and we're off 4.3 on the 7-day. Range of price between 220 and 233. Now, we'll keep an eye on it where it goes here, but we have a lot to cover, and we start with this. Just in, Quantum Biopharma has added 100,000 XRP to its crypto treasury. Ladies and gentlemen, pharma meets crypto. Are more institutions eyeing XRP next? I think the answer is yes. Now, you know, I said this when we saw that that Trident Digital came in and announced a $500 million financing plan for their XRP treasury. And, you know, it only takes 20 or 50 of these things, and you've soaked up several billion XRP off of the exchanges. This is what the Shane Ellis theory looks like in real time. Corporates and institutions sucking up the XRP liquidity right before our eyes. Now, just you wait when we see U.S. digital asset bond issuance. That's right. Bonds you can buy from the U.S. government and Treasury for XRP bonds, Bitcoin bonds, ADA, Solana, and others. And I would say a heavy focus on U.S. domiciled digital assets. And what's the Shane Ellis theory look like then? When all of the demand for XRP is being bought up for the ETFs that will be approved in short order. When all the XRP is being bought up because of the corporate treasuries that are continuing to add XRP in their corporate treasuries. Or when all the XRP is bought up and stored in custody for the U.S. digital asset bond issuance. When that comes down the pike. I think all of these things are coming. I think all of these things play a massive role in bringing upward pressure and demand on XRP, while at the same time, XRP will be in the highest demand it's ever been for payments. That's what I see coming. And here we saw this just announced, XRP Spot ETF, ladies and gentlemen. XRP ETF receives OSC receipt set to launch on TSX on Wednesday, June 18th, 2025. And this is a ETF for Canada, Toronto Stock Exchange. So how much longer until we see, right? How much longer until we see the United States approve an ETF? And remember, we're days away from possibly seeing a U.S. XRP spot ETF approved as well. So, you know, this is getting very, very good, ladies and gentlemen. And this is the news on the Purpose Investment. Take a listen.
Purpose Investments has received approval for its spot XRP ETF in Canada. My name is Nova, and this is Crypto Briefing breaking news. Purpose Investments is set to launch its spot XRP ETF on the Toronto Stock Exchange, after filing with Canada's SEC to offer the XRP-based investment product in the country. This marks the first spot XRP fund approved in North America. The fund will trade under the ticker XRPP on the Toronto Stock Exchange, providing direct exposure to XRP. XRP's price rose 6.5% following the announcement.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. How much longer till the U.S. kicks the door down? And Ripple and Circle launch USDC on the XRP ledger to accelerate DeFi and institutional blockchain adoption. And I still believe that Ripple has an opportunity to come in and buy Circle, and I'm not coming away from it. Here we see the Senate is advancing the Genius Act focused on stablecoins without amendments. Now, if you go into this, what they mean is it's not without amendments. It's actually a bit misleading. Remember that towards the end here, there was a credit card competition act that they wanted to, the left side of the aisle wanted to attach to the stablecoin bill. They have since decided that they are not going to attach that to the bill, and it would make things way more complicated. So they decided not to do that. So that is not going to happen. So now we're back to just the Genius Act, and all of the amendments from the right and left side of the aisle is being voted on today. Senator Haggerty, who introduced the Genius Act, says passing the crypto stablecoin legislation will propel America's payment system into the 21st century. Remember, it's not just about the stable coins themselves, it's about the payment systems and the dollar dominance for the next 150 plus years. That's what this is about, and we're getting it. The Senate will hold its final passage vote on the Genius Act stablecoin bill today at 4:30 p.m., just hours away now, marking the last vote before the legislation moves over to the House. The United States Senate has an opportunity to make history today by passing the Genius Act. And this is going to unlock a lot of innovation in this country. And remember, having the stablecoin bill passed is important, but it also sets the tone and the pressure on Congress to get the tax bill passed, to get the market infrastructure bill passed, because any one of these alone in and of themselves isn't enough. So they have to have them all. So getting this passed today leans in heavily to knowing that the U.S. will get the rest of the legislation passed as well before the end of the year. Now, the question remains here, under the proposed Genius Act, stablecoin issuers would be required to back 100% of their tokens with cash, U.S. treasuries, and other low-risk cash equivalents, meaning you have to wonder what happens to Tether. A few years ago, Tether fired their auditor and have since only provided attestations, which is not the same thing. And currently, according to the Genius Act, if the language hasn't changed with all of the amendments, it's hard to track, the U.S. stablecoin issuers would need to hold 100% of their collateral in cash, T-bills, and other cash equivalents. So you have to wonder, because currently Tether holds 5% in Bitcoin, 5% in precious metals, and 9% in secured loans and other investments. So what will happen there remains to be seen. But we know that we're going to see an explosion of stablecoin activity because the world's largest bank, JP Morgan, has filed a trademark for what appears to be a stablecoin called JPMD. Oh, it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop there. And don't forget about Bank of America and what the CEO said there.
Quick question, now, and Becky's got one back in Washington, but on crypto, we just had Brian Armstrong sitting in the seat that you were in. And obviously there's a lot of excitement about crypto. The banking business, for the most part, has stayed away from crypto. Given President Trump's full-throated support for crypto, do you imagine Bank of America is going to be full on in the crypto business if we have this conversation 12 months, 24 months from now?
I'd separate out the sort of crypto versus stable assets and digital movement of money, because we already move the vast majority of our money digitally. Our consumers do, our companies do. And so the question is, what's the business practice that you have to move another type of currency? So if the rules come in and make it a real thing that you can actually do business with, you will find that the banking system will come in hard on the transactional side of it, non-anonymous, transactional, verified, et cetera, because we have to, because it's just another way our customers are going to.
The other thing we were talking about was the possibility that Bitcoin and some of these cryptocurrencies actually are a threat to the U.S. dollar. Scott Bessent's talked about needing the U.S. dollar to be super powerful.
Yeah.
Is it a threat?
I think there's a whole bunch of dynamics about all the trade and all the consumption of the U.S. consumer and all the stuff that goes on. But I think we do need a strong U.S. dollar. We need a U.S. dollar reserve currency. It's good for our country. But what I'm saying is, if you go down the street here and you go in and buy lunch,
right,
if you can pay with Visa, MasterCard, a debit card, Apple Pay, et cetera, this will just be another form of payment in an instantaneous cash transfer. And so
he's exactly right. But now let's keep this moving here, because remember when Monica Long said this?
It feels like the floodgates are going to open this year, doesn't it? I mean, so within the past week, a couple weeks, so SAB 121 being called back or rolled back. And I mean, within, it felt like minutes, you hear from CEOs like Bank of America saying, we're all in.
There it is. So that's Bank of America's Brian Moynihan right there saying they'd be down with if the stuff comes through. And then after we saw the clarity and the move for the Genius Act and things happening, this was the response of Monica Long after that. So things are looking good. But then we saw even more expansion coming for stablecoin. And it's Walmart and Amazon are exploring launching their own stablecoins. You see where this is going? History is about to be made today, ladies and gentlemen, by passing it out of the Senate and sending it over to the House. And it's going to be much easier to pass through the House. This is about to become the everyday, just like having a cell phone in your pocket. That's what stablecoins are about to become. And the rest of the world in short order is about to find out exactly what one is. And they're going to like it once they get it. 60 billion stablecoin USDC just went live on the XRP Ledger. Let's talk about it with Austin King here. Amazon and Walmart move 500 billion a year in sales, are now exploring stablecoins too. What's going on here? If you don't see how these are connected, the number one thing you need to understand is that there is not going to be a single stablecoin to rule them all. There are going to be many, many stablecoins. However, listen to what he says here. Liquidity will concentrate around a select few as the primary bridge stablecoins that tie together all the rest. And this is where I point to in this conversation. The real USD has a lot of enterprise financial institutions behind it that you've yet to hear about, and they're all waiting. They're all waiting. He goes on to say stablecoins are going to digitize the way modern companies conduct their financial operations. This is why normal tech companies like Uber, Stripe, Shopify, Amazon, and even Walmart are considering integrating stablecoins. Some of these companies are large enough that it actually makes sense to launch a stablecoin even if it's not used externally. If you're running a business that processes $100 billion in volume each year, there are going to be many, many times when even internally, your money gets slowed down by the existing financial system as you're moving capital across your different banks, accounts, and treasury solutions. What this means, though, is that some companies will launch stablecoins for internal purposes, while others will launch stablecoins for external purposes. It is exciting to see Amazon considering launching a stablecoin, but it's really about the second order effect. Which external stablecoin will it use for the necessary liquidity to interoperate with the rest of the financial system? And there you have it. Which external stablecoin will it use for the necessary liquidity to interoperate with the rest of the financial system? This, I think, speaks to what we've heard Brad Garlinghouse say at times. PNC is not going to want a Wells Fargo stablecoin. Wells Fargo is not going to want a PNC stablecoin, and so on and so on. So what are the top contenders here? USD Tether, despite its size, is still regarded with a lot of suspicion among Western businesses due to its being offshore, unregulated, and lower transparency. In addition, they have focused primarily on payments in emerging markets, not businesses and not the West. USDC has primarily has adoption in DeFi and occasionally in Western B2B payments. Real USD is far more focused on institutional liquidity, though, acquisitions like Hidden Road, Medico, and Standard Custody. It is going to take massive investment to become the institutional stablecoin of choice, but the one that seizes this opportunity will play one of the most important roles in the future of the entire global financial system. I tell you what, I like the way Austin breaks things down here. And I happen to believe that real USD will be the one. And then speaking of that, don't forget about the possibility of zero capital gains on US domiciled digital assets like XRP, Solana, ADA, and maybe a few others. This can instantly make the United States the leader with these US domiciled protocols, by creating a demand for everyone to be on these networks because they don't have cap gains. And why or how could you do that? Well, listen to what Greg Kidd says here when he explains if everything is on chain, like on the XRP ledger, then has the money really moved at all? Is there really a need for a payment to be charged?
Deposit account, FDIC insured. And so I'd ask you a question. You've heard about the new 5% tax. If you're on this ledger and you're sending money from, you're here under one visa and you're sending it back home to your mom, if that money never leaves being a dollar, never leaves the country, never even leaves the bank, is that a remittance?
Nope.
I don't think so. I think in this new world, if everything is on ledger, including the XRP ledger, and it's just moving on ledger, what does it mean anymore to move money from one country to another?
Exactly. Why would we charge a fee for that? It's all on the same network.
It doesn't really happen. It just all stays on ledger. And it's the XRP ledger that made that possible all the way back in 2012. That's really why I joined Ripple to this day. And so buying a bank and putting US dollars on, we've also made an investment in the Bank of London, and I'm closing a bank deal in Europe soon. Mm-hmm. So that means dollars, pounds, and euros running 24/7 bank money on chain.
So the U.S., largest economy in the world, the EU falling right behind it, and the U.K., one of the largest financial hubs of the world. And we also know Singapore stablecoin launched on the XRP ledger, which is another huge financial hub of the world.
On chain on the XRP ledger.
On the XRP ledger. Okay. We'll put it on other ledgers too.
News.
So, yep.
And there's your news right there, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why I believe we are sitting in the most coveted position that we could be in. And we have suffered for almost 5 years with the court case hanging over our head, which is still in play. For those that missed the first video this morning, there's been a pushback and an extension on the date to August 15th for the abeyance between the SEC and Ripple. But that doesn't mean that Judge Annalisa Torres can't rule any given time, because she can. So head on a swivel, but I would imagine that they asked for that pushback and extension of that timeline for the abeyance, because that would put us in the window of getting the legislation done here in the United States and then signed on the president's desk while Congress goes into August recess. We'll see what happens there. What I do feel like is that we are sitting in the most amazing position here. And again, I said this in the first video too, but I'm going to say it again here because it doesn't change for me just because I'm making another video. The reality for me is that it is the United States that is the catalyst to unlock the new digital asset class and the new on-chain digital economy. That's what I believe, and I think we're witnessing it, and I think today is going to be an amazing day for Senate to make history and pass the Genius Act, and then it goes over to the House. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives. I'll catch all of you on the next one.